We call the Carver Planning Board to March 26, 2024 meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. If we would all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first order of business this evening is a public hearing continued on the application of Plymouth Elks Lodge, number 1476, requesting a site plan review pursuant to sections 3100 of the Carver zoning bylaw for property located at 169 South Meadow Road in Carver, Mass. Assessors map 113, lot 70E, portion of, in the airport zoning district. The applicant proposes to construction a 2,520 square foot building with all associated parking, driveways, stormwater management, utilities, landscaping, and appurtenances. Do we have anybody here?
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Have a seat. So I've been on the phone with Andy this afternoon. We got final comments from the Elks last week. Andy has been reviewing but hasn't had a chance to put together a report. So we talked this afternoon in the draft decision that I sent you earlier. The last version of it was after I spoke to Andy to make sure we're on the same page. So there's, in the draft decision, we get to that, a couple of conditional conditions that we'll get to. But I just wanted to give you the scoop that technically Andy doesn't have any technical issues remaining with the Elks. He just hasn't had time to produce that report. We talked this afternoon to make sure I captured that in the draft decision that hopefully we'll get to talk about a little later on this evening.
Excellent. Good evening.
Good evening. Steel. It's on me. I put it on. Perfect.
If you could pull that microphone a little closer.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Robert DeWart here with Bracken Engineering on behalf of the Elks Lodge, and working to continue our proposed site development here in Carver on South Meadow Road.
So give me a second. I'll get you on the screen.
Sure.
Likely. Look at that.
Since we last spoke, we have worked to clarify a few of the lingering questions from Fuss and O'Neill. As Tom stated, we did return comments back to them, responses to their comments last week, and Andy has been reviewing them since. Just as a little recap of the project, right now it is a vacant portion of the airport, Plymouth Airport parcel. This will be a leased area from the airport. It is not a standalone parcel. It is currently vacant, just some scrub pines, grasses, and there are some existing utilities that run across, including a buried water line, buried sewer, and overhead electric, which dives down to a buried electric towards the rear of that portion of the parcel. Just as a reminder, we are proposing the 25, roughly 100 square foot structure with all the parking, drainage, and appurtenances as described in your introduction. And then, again, we have added some windows, as discussed last time, to the front of the building in talks with the Elks. They're also more than willing to add some awnings to these windows as well, just to break up that front facade. And I think with that, yeah, any questions remaining? I will say that we did coordinate everything with the fire department as well. They're happy. They had no further comments. They're okay with the turning radius that we've provided. You know, we've shown that the fire department with their largest truck, their ladder truck, they can both come in, turn around if there are no cars, and pull back out. If there are cars present, they are able to exit out that rear sort of emergency exit out the other side. So, with that, open it up to any questions from the board.
All right. Do we have a letter from the fire department?
We do. We have a memo from the fire department with their concerns. We have a second follow-up email from the fire department that says their concerns have been addressed.
Okay.
That is referenced in the draft decision as well, that the,
Mr. Chair, if I could.
Please.
I did want to ask, did the issue of the sprinkler system get addressed?
It did, yep. So that was addressed with the fire department, and they were okay with the building not being sprinklered.
All right. And I know Mr. Williams had a question as far as the water was concerned, if you were going to be using water from Plymouth, fire hydrant.
There is a fire hydrant right at the town line. It's right, there's a sign entering Plymouth, and there is a Plymouth fire hydrant there. And I'm sure if there was a fire, Carver could sneak over and hook onto it if,
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah,
they'd
there
be
is-
stopping them. So there is a live Plymouth hydrant right within 10 feet of the town line, which is the property line, or the, it's gotta be out on the street right next to where it says entering Plymouth, entering Carver. So I would think they would be able to, I don't think anybody's gonna stop them if there's a fire to hook onto an actual
No,
line.
I don't think so. And they were fine. It's not going to be
Yeah, they were
required to have
fine.
a sprinkler system?
Excuse me, what was the last
They're
one?
not going to require some kind of sprinkler system?
Nope, they were fine without the sprinkler system. I think their last email back to us was March 11th, Tom. I don't know if you were looking for that. I have that over here.
yeah, I found that it's actually in the findings of the draft decision. Comments from the Carver Fire Department dated February 20th, 2024, and March 11, 2024 indicate that all of our original comments are addressed, and Carver Fire has no further access issues at this time. A second part for emergency services in the findings is shown in the requested turning radius, which is on the screen that you see up on the wall. The following requested turning vehicle analysis prepared by Brackett and reviewed by the Carver Fire Department dated February 23rd, 2024. Emergency vehicles access being provided from the site parking lot to the paved parking lot next door at 276 South Meadow Avenue. One of those conditions is that they would get a super key lock for the gate, so the fire department can access that gate if necessary. It's sort of a standard parameter from the Carver Fire Department, so everybody has the same.
Has Fuston O'Neill had a chance to look at this pass-through and the engineering design to make sure it's capable of handling?
Correct.
The
No,
way-
there are no issues with that.
Okay. Have we discussed it? Have we verified that Plymouth Water Department has approved fire protection, domestic water services?
I'll let Rob discuss that at any particulars. The draft decision does say that, and excuse me, I'm having trouble with an I here, so it's making me hard to find things. Conditions,
It's just above the fourth paragraph down. Board finds that water and sewer will be provided by the town of Plymouth.
thank you. And
I'll read the rest.
yeah, thank you. And in the
I-
conditions,
In the absence of such
thank you.
water and sewer will be provided by the town of Plymouth. In the absence of such, the applicant will need to apply for modification of the site plan showing any revisions for the provision of water and sewer.
And you'll see on the site plan that there are both water and sewer lines on the property to take or deliver to or take from the building.
And we included a utility, all the utilities that pass through the property on the site plan?
Correct, yep,
Okay.
yep.
Uh,
And Plymouth Water Department has confirmed, they've seen the plan, they've confirmed they're okay with the connection. We're still coordinating with the airport. The sewer department and health department in Plymouth have just deferred everything to the airport, so we're just, their airport is okay with it. We're just confirming the capacity and the flows right now, so.
Condition for a sign permit application will be done through the building department. You did the easement plan. You provided plant material in the northeast corner. The pole heights are less than 20 feet.
Correct, they are 20 feet, capped at 20 feet.
With full cutoff fixtures.
Yep, correct.
We included a condition to provide a copy of the NPDES permit to the town planner and Fuss & O'Neill prior to the site disturbance.
Yeah, I'm not confident that we actually need a NIPD's permit for this site. While the disturbance is over an acre, we're not discharging anything to what's classified as the waters of the US. So I don't believe that we actually need a NIPD's permit here, but we will confirm that, and if required, submit it prior to construction. Yeah.
If it isn't required, please provide the
Yeah.
supporting documentation. Other than that, and you will, or have updated the plans to reflect awnings and the windows?
The elevation plans have been updated to reflect the windows. The awnings will just have the condition that they're added on there.
Okay.
I don't think they're added on to the elevation.
That's fine,
views.
we can add that condition in.
Yeah.
All right. Questions or concerns from the board? Seeing none, if you'll excuse us, Robert, it's a public hearing. I'm going to open it up if there's any questions or concerns from the public. Seeing none, the chair will accept a motion to close the public hearing on the application of Plymouth Elks Lodge 1476. Construction of a 2,520 square foot building with all associated parking, driveways, stormwater management, utilities, landscaping, and appurtenances.
I'll make said motion.
Motion made by Ms. Sardillo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gasky. Further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Gasky.
Aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Ellen Sordillo says aye.
Don Williams says aye.
Now you've
Oh,
stepped...
I'm standing, yeah.
Yep, that's okay.
We're closing the hearing.
Oh, right,
Well-
you can close the hearing, yeah.
Okay.
So we'll take the aye, and Mr. Shea says aye. Thank you very much. All right, the chair will accept a motion to approve the application of Plymouth Elks Lodge 1476 with the conditions to be discussed.
I'll make that said motion.
Motion made by Mr. Robinson,
Second.
second by Mr. Gasky.
So Tom, are we gonna add that to, number 10, or is that gonna be an extra condition?
We're talking about the awnings.
The awnings, yeah.
I have added to site number, condition number 10 as well as awnings.
Okay.
I'll read the conditions. Mr. Bott's,
Just one thing real quick. On the third paragraph, the second page,
third paragraph, second page, yeah.
yeah, we got a dot, dot, dot.
Oh, that's just where I broke up the planning, the fire department's, the rest of their statement is sort of superfluous. So those dot, dot, dots, so something has been deliberately been removed from that.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure
Yeah,
that
those are
that
my
that's-
ellipses.
that it's not something that is going to be brought back as,
Nope.
yep, all right.
All right. The plans, condition number one, the plans must be constructed as approved. Any revisions will require approval from the board as a modification of this decision. Number two, the applicant is responsible for the proper proper operation and maintenance of the site. During construction, sedimentation and soil erosion control shall be installed, repaired, and supplemented as needed. Dust control is required during the construction, and the roadway apron is to be kept swept and clear of dust, dirt, or debris. A copy of the MPDES permit shall be provided to the town planner and Fuss & O'Neill prior to the start of site disturbance, positive or negative, as we discussed. Any outstanding balance of the review and inspections deposit account shall be paid prior to the issuance of a certificate of use and occupancy. A copy of the lease agreement shall be provided to the Carver Planning Department, which shall include notifications of the utilities within the leased area, as well as language to allow the airport and any entity associated with said utilities the ability to enter the leased area for maintenance, inspection, or repair. The developer, their engineer, and their contractor shall hold a pre-construction conference with planning, building, conservation, health, and operations and maintenance departments prior to the start of any construction on site. Stakes shall be set to mark the boundaries of the area to be cleared, and the clearing limits are inspected by the town prior to clearing. Pursuant to Section 3500 of the zoning bylaw, a signed permit application will be required for proposed signage. The installation of a super key safe is required for gated emergency access. Order forms are available at Carver Fire Headquarters. All lights, fixtures will be cut off luminaries. Light poles shall not exceed 20 feet in height. You understand that all signage should be shut off within a half an hour of the close of the building.
Yes,
Okay.
understood.
Pursuant to Section 3167 of the Carver zoning bylaw, revised elevations shall be submitted, adding faux windows to the western facade of the building that fronts on South Meadow Road to ensure that at least 15% of the facade surface contains windows highlighted with frames, lintels, and sills or equivalent frame features. And
It
how
now
would you like?
says as well as awnings.
As well as
On the big
awnings.
screen there.
Okay, excellent. Any outstanding balance of the review and inspection deposit account shall be paid prior to the issuance of certificate of occupancy. Prior to site disturbance, the board consulting engineer shall verify conformance with the Stormwater Management Standard 2. All right. Is the board satisfied?
Yes.
Does this meet that new standard, EPA standard that we have to look at?
It does, because even though our standard might not be that standard, Andy's standard is that standard.
Okay.
So we'll be bringing that to the April 23rd meeting, and Andy will be in attendance as well to talk about that whole relationship between all the folks who help us do our jobs or make it harder for us to do our jobs, depending on your perspective.
Roger that.
It's all good stuff.
All right. Seeing no further questions or comments, Mr. Gasky, the motion is to approve with the conditions as stated.
John Gasky says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Ellen Sodillo says aye.
John Williams will abstain.
And Mr. Shea says aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Our next order of business is a public hearing continued on the application of KG Development Corporation requesting a special permit pursuant to Section 3800 and 5300 of the Carver zoning bylaw and a definitive subdivision pursuant to the Carver subdivision control bylaw for property located at 85 Wenham Road in Carver, Mass., Assessors Map 99, Lot 23-0, in the Residential Agricultural Zoning District. The applicant proposes a 5-lot subdivision under the Conservation Subdivision Bylaw. The applicant has requested a continuance till
April 9th, 2024.
till April 9th, 2024. The chair will accept a motion to continue the public hearing until April 9th, 2024 to Carver Town Hall, Room 1, 7 p.m.
I'll make that said motion.
Motion
I'll
made.
second.
Motion made by Mr. Robinson, seconded by Ms. Sardillo. Mr. Gasky.
Aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Ellen Sordillo says aye.
Don Williams says aye.
And Mr. Shea says aye.
Eric, do you want this?
Excuse me for 1 minute.
Sure, absolutely, yep.
I'm out to the hallway, that's all.
Nope.
That should be on the screen. All right.
You see that big goon?
Okay.
Got a small copy too.
Yeah, I need the big to see the numbers, but I'll use the small one too. Our next order of business is a public hearing on the application of Bridgestone Development Incorporated, requesting a special permit and site plan review pursuant to sections 2230C, 3100, 4341, and 5300 of the Carver zoning bylaw, located at lot number 4, Ricketts Pond Drive in Carver, Mass. Assessors Map 32, Lot 1-4, in the Spring Street Innovation Zoning District. The lot will be comprised of a 7,494 square foot commercial building with associated driveway, parking area, closed drainage system, septic system, and utility connections. Stormwater from the site development will be directed to an infiltration basin that was designed to accommodate runoff from the Ricketts Pond Business Park definitive subdivision. If I could trouble you to pass this back to Mr. Bott. All right, if you could introduce yourself.
Good evening. My name is Eric Shoemaker. I'm from Mackenzie Engineering Group and representing the applicant, Bridgestone Development. I'm going to start with the existing conditions plan, sheet EX1. The site is located at Lot 4 of the Ricketts Pond definitive subdivision in Carver. It's Assessor's Map 32, Lot 1-4. It's comprised of 87,845 square feet, or approximately 2.01 acres. The site's located in the town of Carver, Spring Street Innovation Zoning District, and the Water Resource Protection District. The lot is bordered by Ricketts Pond to the east, State Highway Route 44 to the northwest, and undeveloped woodlands to the north. Spring Street is located to the south. The Ricketts Pond subdivision was approved by the Carver Planning Board in April of 2019. The topography of the site ranges in elevation, but it generally slopes east towards the pond. You have a high point along the frontage here and a low point down by the pond. The topographic information shown on this existing conditions plan, as well as the perimeter, was prepared from an on-the-ground field survey conducted by Mackenzie Engineering Group in February of 2018, May and August of 2022, and the latest being in March of 2023. The existing conditions topography shown on the existing conditions plan represent that site topography as of March 2023, which represents the topo and the elevations at the time of filing. The plan is to, as the parcel was previously comprised of an earth removal and mining operation, the soil stockpiles have been removed from the lot, and it has been graded to roughly 1 foot below the proposed grade, which is about elevation 145. The site is located within FEMA Zone X, and it's not located within a DEP Zone 2 or Town of Carver Aquifer Protection Zone. Bordering vegetated wetlands are located along the eastern portion of the lot, that being Ricketts Pond, and those were delineated by Environmental Consulting and Restoration, LLC, on February 6, 2018. An order of resource area delineation approving that limit of bordering vegetated wetlands was issued on July 9th, 2018. A notice of intent was then submitted for the basins and roadway included in the subdivision submission dated April 2019, and later an order of conditions was issued for the subdivision and the road. Moving on to the site layout plan and why we're here in front of you today. So this plan, sheet C1, shows the proposed surface treatments of the lot, the proposed building. Up to the top left of your plan, you'll see the dimensional constraints of the Carver zoning bylaw, and that comparison is our proposed development versus the requirements for that Spring Street Innovation Zoning District. The top of the plan shows the parking calculations. So what we're proposing to do here, and as shown on our special permit application, we're filing the special permit as authorized by zoning section 2230.c. So that's warehouse in a building with less than 20,000 square feet. And section 4341, which is any uses with more than 10,000 square feet impervious coverage in that water resource protection zone. So the proposed development includes a 7,494 square foot building. It's going to be comprised of 25% office and the remaining 75% warehouse. Around the building, you're going to have a bituminous concrete parking area. The minimum aisle width is 24 feet for the parking area, and that's going to include a foot of Cape Cod berm on each side for curbs. We also propose, I'll get into on the later plans, related site infrastructure, drainage, utilities, septic systems, etc. So the entire site disturbance is located outside of the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands and the Conservation Commission jurisdiction. That 100-foot buffer zone is shown as this green line on the plan, and our site disturbance, our grading, our proposed parking area is well outside of that. So no notice of intent filing is required with the Conservation Commission. The bituminous concrete parking area is going to include 11 parking spaces along the front of the building, as well as a 5-foot wide cement concrete sidewalk. The loading bays for the warehouse portion of the building are going to be located at the rear. In total, we have 45 feet of width for a box truck to access the warehouse component of the buildings. Handicap accessible ramp, as well as handicap space and van accessible space, is located along the front of the building for access from people with disabilities. Landscape buffers are provided along all sides of the development. We provide them along the side lot lines, the front, as well as the rear, and I'll get into that later on the landscape plan. And on the first sheet, the legend and abbreviations sheet, you'll see down the bottom, we're requesting a waiver for the parking lot design component, and I believe we exceed the 8 parking spaces allowed in the front of the lot. We're providing 11, which exceeds that requirement. The reason being, we think it's a safer design for pedestrians to separate the parking component from tenants away from the warehouse and the loading areas in the rear of the building. We don't want pedestrians trying to walk and access the front of the building to be in that loading zone. And one alternative I did look at was taking 3 spaces, so we would have 11 in the front here, and adding those extra 3 back towards the dumpster area. But that didn't make sense, and we believe this is a cleaner, more straightforward design. So moving on to the grading and drainage plan, sheet C2. Our goal was to design a drainage system that complied with all local and state stormwater management regulations, as well as attenuates the 2, 10, 25, and 100-year storm events. To do this, we laid out a closed drainage system consisting of a series of catch basins and drain manholes to capture the impervious runoff from the proposed parking area. So the runoff from this lot gets accepted into the eastern infiltration basin. That eastern infiltration basin for the subdivision accepts all runoff from these eastern lots. So to double check our stormwater report, what we've been doing is updating the original 2019 stormwater report filed for the subdivision with these new impervious area calculations. Overall, it's a reduction in impervious surface from what was estimated for this lot and the eastern side of the development as a whole. The 100-year flood elevation decreases in that basin from elevation 138.45 down to 137.72. And the top of that basin is at 140, so we have well over 2 feet of freeboard for flooding. The 100-year storm elevation decreases from what was originally anticipated in that 2019 report as well. The utility design is shown on sheet C3. The utilities anticipated for Lot 4 consist of underground electric, telephone, cable connections extending from Ricketts Pond Drive. You'll see this down to the southern end of the lot. A potable well is located up to the northeast with underground water service connecting to the proposed building. We have a double-walled 1,000-gallon propane tank located at the north with underground gas service to the structure. And lastly, we provide a septic system size for the building, for the office and warehouse components, which will be eventually submitted to the Carver Board of Health for approval. So we designed this with the Carver Board of Health regulations for setbacks from catch basins as well as the wells to that septic system, so we're in compliance with that. The next sheet I'm going to discuss is LA1, which is the landscape plan. So the landscape plan was designed using pollinator species. I believe it was from the UMass list. The side yard consists of white pine trees as well as cedar trees and pussy willow and endless summer hydrangea shrubs. In total, with those side lot lines, the side buffers, you have 6 trees and 13 shrubs on each side. We're in compliance with that side yard regulation of the landscape section of the Carver zoning bylaw. We provided an 11-foot setback that corresponds to our 11 parking spaces. The rear yard is going to include a 6-foot-high vinyl fence with wildlife openings at grade. As I mentioned earlier, we have well over 100 feet of wooded area to the rear of the lot, which should do an excellent job of screening the development. The front lot line, the front buffer, is going to consist of pin oak street trees spaced at 35 feet apart. Those were originally part of the subdivision design. In addition to those street trees, you're going to have red cedar trees, white pine trees, the pussy willow shrubs, and the hydrangeas. In total, you'll have 9 trees and 8 shrubs located along the front of that line. We calculated the interior lot landscaping islands you'll see adjacent to the parking spaces. There's 2 landscape islands at the front of the building, and they continue around the side of the structure. Within those interior lot landscape beds, you're going to have redbud trees and a couple smooth rose shrubs, 4 shrubs and 2 trees in total. So that really is what we're proposing here. A quick run through of the plans and introduction. I can answer any questions the board members may have.
There's existing landscaping to the rear of the site that will remain at grade?
Yeah, this line, it's kind of a clouded line. I'm running the cursor across is the existing tree line. So that's really the extent of the woods on the site. As you can see in this area, you have, a little bit over 100 feet. I estimate maybe 120 feet in width. And the extent of our grading and our limit of work is shown as this silt sock erosion control barrier. So we're well outside of that wooded buffer. We don't plan on disturbing any of the existing trees back there.
Excellent. I noticed the well is like right at the 100 foot. What's its distance from the septic area?
Yeah, so that was driven by separation between septic as well as wells. It's a little bit, I would estimate 160 feet from septic to well. The minimum in Carver is 150, so we wanted to just, set the well apart from the septic and for water quality purposes.
Just to make sure that's not going to interfere with the other lot?
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, great.
Is this going to be one way around?
It's 2-way driving aisles, so we have 24 feet, which can support 2-way traffic. So it's going to be 2-way around the entire building.
Are we expecting 18-wheelers?
I believe, if I'm correct, Mike, This was designed for the, maximum vehicle being, we call it a SU-30. It's like a 30-foot long box truck.
Yep. What's the use?
The use is 25% office and 75% warehouse.
In particular, what kind of warehouse?
Most of the,
You'll have to come up and identify yourself, please.
Contract.
Yeah, the bays currently are going to be contractor bays. We have a prospective tenant wants two bays. Thank you, Bob. Thank you. And they basically make switches for large plumbing systems. So they're small switches that they build. And they would have mostly office space. I would say 1/3 of their space is office, the rest is where they can actually manufacture these switches.
Are hazardous materials going to be stored on site?
No,
Okay. This is not going to be a publicly accessible site?
no.
I expect there will be signage in regards to that. Did we berm the dumpster?
Yeah, there's a 1-foot Cape Cod berm as well as a separate fence around the dumpster area.
All right. I expect we'll provide a vermin control plan in regards to the property.
Yes, we can provide that.
Snow removal?
Snow removal will be placed in any landscape areas not taken up by trees and shrubs. It's a good spot towards the rear of the lot here where the fence is separated from the limit of pavement. And then the plan, any excess snow removal which can't be stored on site will be trucked off to a snow storage facility.
All right. The wooded line in the rear is it higher or lower than the planned storage, snow storage site? In other words, if you're gonna store the snow there, it's not all gonna run down the hill into the wetlands?
Yeah. So if you see the 146 where I'm zooming in on each side, what I've done is I kind of created a berm. I wanted to completely separate the development runoff from this undisturbed areas in here. So by putting a 146 on each side here, I was able to create a high point. You'll see 146.2, 146.4. So that's kind of going to act like a grade break and push runoff on each side of it. So I would say from where I'm showing the cursor to the left, that runoff is going to flow into the parking area. From here to the right, it's going to flow down the slope. So we don't anticipate that issue.
Excellent. My last concern is going to be I see that your vegetative barriers on the north and south side are acceptable to me. It's something we've gone over a lot, but the one on the street side is only 2 feet. Now, we've discussed that the sidewalk is part of the required roadway system and doesn't include this, but there should be more than 2 feet of, at least I'm only seeing 2 feet listed on my sheet here in regards to this, and it should be at least 10 feet. I think 10 feet is the minimum we've allowed in this development.
I think, well, it's 2 feet to the property line, then there's another, I believe 5 feet in width to the sidewalk, then you have the 5-foot sidewalk, and then another.
Well, it's part of the lot, see, and it's part of the lot's responsibility to create this. It's not part of the street system. And you're saying, so there's 2 feet on one side of the lot line, and then, what, 3 feet on the other side?
So, yes, so in total, there was 6 feet from that edge of curb to the sidewalk. And in the Spring Street Innovation Zoning District, that buffer is not required for the front. That zone is not listed in the zoning bylaws.
The zone isn't listed, but it is required. It's required under section 3200, 14 maybe, 3214, visual relief from parking and protection from wind is required. It applies to any non-residential uses, 3220. Again, there's a few others in there, but it does apply. It's just not specifically listed as a number in there. So far, the minimum I think we've allowed was somewhere around 10 or 12 feet. So I think that's something to work with, because, again, you're looking to get a waiver for parking in front of the building, and this waiver is higher than what we are allowed to grant. So we're allowed to grant, under circumstances, 8 spaces. You're asking for 11. I don't think it's too much to ask to have some minimal amount of vegetative buffering in front of the building.
I'll check back with what we did for lot 5 and lot 3 next to it. This was on the same sort of scale with what we've shown on those. In designing this, we wanted to obviously stay away from the wetlands.
Understand, this design is actually, I find it's much more well thought out, and a lot of what we've had to work through with the other site designs have been covered in this. I think you've done a really good job in the presenting. But again, unsightly features like parking lots and such need to be screened from the road.
Okay. I can look into that for sure. Would landscaping be preferred over moving the 3 parking spaces to the rear, like I mentioned earlier? So now we eliminate the need for a waiver, we eliminate the need.
There's still going to be a waiver because you're parking in front of the building. We're giving you a variance on it, not a waiver on it for parking in front of the building is what we're looking to do. Whether it's 8 or 11, it's parking in front of the building, and it's going to require a waiver from us.
In excess of 8 spaces, I believe.
Right, and I personally don't have an issue with the 11 spaces. I just want to make sure it's properly buffered.
Okay.
Do we have any questions or concerns from the board?
No, I don't. Just bang up job.
Yeah, you've come a long way. Now, this is a public hearing. Is there anybody from the public that wishes to ask questions, concerns, or comments? Seeing none, because I see 2 young men back there, and I expect they're here for their civics class. Yes. Okay. So we haven't heard back from Fuss and O'Neill in regards to this yet?
No, in our conversation with Andy this afternoon, he anticipates having the review letter out hopefully tonight, since I didn't make him come here.
Right.
So, so he's hoping to have that out early this week, hopefully tomorrow, and we'll have it to you guys as soon as it hits my desk.
I expect the conditions we'll set will be typical to what the other sites were in regards to public access and signage, and this doesn't have an infiltration basin on site, correct? I'll ask.
Drainage is
No,
piped
It's
from
piped
here.
down to the infiltration basin in the front? Yes,
Yeah.
There
okay.
isn't anything on site.
So you're looking at lot 4 here, and if you follow these easements, everything's going to the south to this infiltration basin.
Yeah,
Excellent.
in between 1 and 3, right?
Yep.
Which is what you had talked about before with the amount of freeboard we have available in that basin to take the stormwater flow from the
Based
site.
on the size that we reduced the building by, it's eliminated a lot of them.
Will we hear from the fire department?
We will.
Excellent. All right, recommendations from the Board of Health, I expect we might hear something in regards to that.
Yeah, and in typical fashion, Andy will comment on the septic
Okay.
system, but also note that he refers to the Board of Health on the
Excellent.
septic system.
Are there any further questions, comments, or concerns from the board? Seeing none, the chair will accept a motion to continue the application of Bridgestone Development, Inc., requesting a special permit and site plan review.
To
For-
April 9th.
Lot number 4, Ricketts Pond, till April 9th, 2024, room 1, Carver Town Hall, 7 PM.
I'll make that said motion.
Motion made by Mr. Robinson,
Second?
seconded by Ms. Sardillo. Do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Gasky.
Aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Ellen Sodillo says aye.
Don Williams says aye.
And Mr. Shea says aye. Thank you, gentlemen.
And so we will have Andy here for both meetings in April, for the 9th and the 23rd.
I'm sorry?
We'll have Andy here for both meetings in April for the 9th and the 23rd.
Just applications.
Town planner notes, Mr. Bott. I see endorsed subdivision plan for Route 44 and sign the Mylar for 278 Tremont Street.
Yes, so we do have the Mylar for 278 Tremont Street. Initially, I had hoped that we would have the Mylar for Route 44, since the appeal period is passed. And having that conversation with those folks, there are 52 pages to the subdivision plan. So when we produce a Mylar, in order to have something that we can record at the Registry of Deeds. But we typically do not record 52 pages of a Mylar, because a lot of those sheets are technical details. So we're having this discussion with the applicant right now about what are those sheets that we'll likely be signing. So it looks like we're about 16, 18-ish sheets, and they've got to print those.
Oh, so it's only a mortgage. That's all.
So
Yeah.
I expect we'll be able to find time during the general course of our business days to come in and sign all those.
Yeah, because, 18 sheets is, we'll have some snacks.
There you go.
Make it easy for you. That is not here this evening, but we do have the Mylar from the A&R that we did at the last meeting. I neglected to have the board sign that. Michelle did say, do you want me to send you a note about that? I'm like, no, we'll be fine. And then we didn't sign it, and I said, well, Michelle, I never got a text. So she's not supposed to send me text, by the way. So anyhow, my bad that we didn't get that signed last week. So we have that, and the only other notes is just about the upcoming discussion about stormwater management. So we have a stormwater bylaw, and we have stormwater regulations. And as I mentioned before, the EPA took umbrage with our stormwater regulations because they didn't comport with all the requirements. And so in work with town council has developed draft model regulations that we are sort of massaging to fit into Carver regarding things like cold water fisheries. There aren't any in Carver. We're tributary to cold water fisheries that are in Wareham, both the Patterson Brook and another stream but we just want to make sure that we are in compliance with those. So at our meeting on the 23rd, we'll have both town council and we'll have Andy here to talk about the particulars, the technical particulars and the legal particulars of those stormwater regulations. And I think that's pretty much what I've got at this point. As we know, do not come to town meeting next April 9th. Pushed off until June. That's why there wasn't a whole lot going on the 9th to start with, because we anticipated we'd be at the town meeting that night.
Voting is still going to continue on April 27th, correct?
I don't do voting.
That's right, that's right. We'll check with the,
I don't do elections.
I meant to check with our town clerk in regards to the exact date on that. All right.
Should be up on the website.
Right, you reminded me last time, but that was 2 weeks ago. Frankly, it's really pushing the limits of my short-term memory there.
I found it on the website.
There we go.
And, all right, so, town planning board member notes. We had a terrible tragedy in town recently. I didn't know if we wanted to do a safety minute at the start of the coming equinox in regards to changing your fire safety tips, changing your batteries and stuff, but I think the board would be happy to do it if Jesse Boyle shows any interest in it. Other than that, the minutes, Chair will accept a motion. Did everybody get the minutes of 2:20 in the edited versions? The Chair will accept the motion to accept the edited version of the February 20th, 2024 Planning Board minutes.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Gasky,
I'll second.
seconded by Ms. Sordillo. Any further discussion? Did we miss anything? Seeing none, Mr. Gasky?
Aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Ellen Sodillo says aye.
Don Williams says aye.
And Mr. Shea says aye. The Chair will accept the motion to approve the Planning Board meeting minutes of February 27th, 2024.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Gasky,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Sordillo. Do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Gasky?
Aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Ellen Sodillo says aye.
Don Williams says aye.
And Mr. Shea says aye. I want to thank our young gentleman here from civics class, is it?
Yeah.
Excellent, for attending tonight and paying very close attention to what was going on. Do you have any questions? You sat through the whole proceedings, you saw...
I had a question.
Come on up here and, well, just so we can hear you, it's,
Can I make one real quick announcement?
sure.
For all of our families out there, Flag Football Combine is this Saturday over at Purchase Street Fields from 8 until noon.
Thank you very much. So things tend to move along at a very fast pace here, because in general, both sides of the table understand what's happening, but the audience might not. So we really do value whatever questions or comments you might have.
Yeah, I just had a question on.
So if you would, could you just identify yourself for the record? Because
yeah.
you're going to be in the minutes.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know you get extra credit for that, but I'm,
My name is Kingston Gomes, and I'm a student at Carver. And I had a question about the first site, like the site planning review, like about the Elks thing. I was just wondering, because like they didn't really state like what like the use of the building would be, and I was kind of wondering, because they said for the second building that it was going to be used like as like a warehouse for like manufacturing switches, I'm pretty sure, but they didn't really say like what was going to be the use of the first building.
No, that's okay. Excellent question, because some people are coming right in the middle of things, but we've talked about it at two other occasions. This one was a public hearing that was continued. So the use is going to be for a meeting or gathering place, and the Elks is a private club, I believe. Anybody can join it, but it's a private club, and they generally participate very heavily in civic and community activities. So it'll be a gathering place for them to work that out. So that's
Adult clubhouse.
yeah, it is a really nice clubhouse. So
Yeah, I understand.
again,
Yeah, that had been covered in the last couple of meetings and
Right,
stuff too.
right.
Their initial.
and so we were really down to the final aspects of seeing the approval of that. So they had presented it, and then our engineer came back with his concerns, and we addressed those, and then we come here tonight, and that's where we worked out the final details on
Yeah,
it.
so it was like basically like already set in place, but they just had to like work out like the minor details, like to like approve it fully.
Right, although the approval doesn't happen until the actual vote is taken. So up until that point, none of us have any one way or another opinion. We have to take all the facts in, and the majority of what we weigh is how well it fits in with our bylaws. And this one, it was in the appropriate area, in an airport zone. There wasn't a lot of foot traffic in that area, and it met most of our bylaws.
Yeah.
So approving something like that, it was mostly working out the smaller details.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
No, thank you. You have a good evening. I hope your teacher gives you extra credit. Point them towards the tape. All right, the chair will accept a motion to adjourn.
I will make said motion.
Motion made by Ms. Sardillo,
Second.
second by Mr. Gasky. Do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Gasky.
Aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Ellen Sodillo says aye.
Carl Williams says aye.
And Mr. Shea says aye. Gentlemen, if you want to come up, we'll be happy to sign those for you.